All right. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. We are going to be starting over. We are we're starting our Torah portion over again. We've got through Deuteronomy last week, and now we are going back to Genesis. So we'll be looking over at Bereshit, the first chapter. I got some I put together some last minute slides. But I didn't have enough time to put all the slides in, so we're gonna go do something else after we get. We'll see what happens as we go through. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those up now. Let's see here. Let's see here. Pull this little slideshow if I can get to it. Get started here. Okay, we'll probably just how we want to do this. We'll probably we'll just let's just read through it real quick, and then we'll go back and go over it. Let me do it that way. Let me pull that up. We'll read through it, and then we'll go back and go through the verses. Let's do it that way. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and read. Somebody gonna read that for me. You got it? Yeah, I got it.
In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth came to be, formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be." And light came to be. And Elohim saw the light that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, one day. And Elohim said, "Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters, which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse heavens. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the second day. And Elohim said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it came to be so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the collection of the waters he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. Oh. And Elohim saw that it was so. It was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the third day. And Elohim said, "Let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it came to be so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to the rule of the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fourth day. And Elohim said, let the waters teem with shoals of living beings, and let birds fly above the earth on the face of the expanse of the heavens. And Elohim created great sea creatures, and every living being that moves, with which the waters teem according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and increase, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fifth day. And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living being according to its kind, livestock and creeping creatures, and beasts of the earth according to his kind. And it came to be so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to his kind, livestock according to its kind, and all that creep on the earth according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the ground. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him. Male and female, he created them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said to them, be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creeping creatures on the earth. And Elohim said, see, I have given you every plant that yields seed, which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it is for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to every creeping creature on the earth, in which there is a living being, every plant is for food. And it came to be so. And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the sixth day.
Actually, go to just read the first three verses there.
Chapter 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their array. And in the seventh day Elohim completed his work, which he had done. And he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and set it apart, because on it he rested from all his work, which Elohim in creating had made.
Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, so let us now look at these verses a little bit at a time here. Going back, let's set my Bible down. Okay, going back in the beginning, very first verse, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So we're going to look at a lot of Hebrew words today, so that we can get a understanding of what's going on here. I don't know why this thing keeps on jumping up there. So let us look at Bereshit. Bereshit, which is the first word. I should have put that up in the Hebrew there. Bereshit. Bereshit is that first word, but it's actually a compound word. The root there is reshit, which is, it means the first in place or time or order or rank. It can mean any of those things. The beginning, in place, time, order, or rank, or chief. or the principal thing. When you look at this Hebrew is Reshit. Here, Bereshit would just be a bet right there, which is kind of just a prefix on that word, which is where the in part goes, right? So it says it's translated in the beginning, so that's why you have that bet, right? You know, to give you bear Reshit right here. This is the word here, Reshit. Okay, let's keep on going here. I'm going to talk about this. The root of Reshit is Rosh, which is a masculine noun meaning a head, hair, person, a point, the top, the beginning, the best, chief, or a leader. This word actually is Resh, right? It's the same basic letters right here. It's basically it's describing what this letter is here, this Resh here. But the word is giving you the context of, you know, the head, the top, the beginning, the chief, right? So let's see here. Jeff Benner has this mechanical translation of the book of Genesis, Jeff Benner, where he says in the summit he did fatten Elohim, which is also the same as powers. That's we could hear you. Okay. Oh, so this has it here spelled out, the whole first verse here, right? Bereshit, bara Elohim et hashemayim va'et haaretz. So this mechanical version is basically giving you kind of the definitions here of these words. It's kind of like a literal translation without like the fillings, right? So this summit here is what this Bereshit is translated into, in terms of like when you think of like a mountain top, the top of that mountain is the summit, right? The peak. In the English is translated as beginning, right? But that word is giving you the idea of you know, the very top, the peak. So when we think about this verse here, it's interesting because when you look at the whole thing kind of in the context of the chapter, this verse is kind of, it's almost like a summary of what happened. And we can see how it's sort of disconnected from the rest, and it's not necessarily like in the chronological order, right? Because we see here it says again, it's in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth, but we'll see that water should have been in here if we was going to look at this from a chronological standpoint, because, you know, the waters was kind of before we saw the earth. So we'll see that as we look for more into this, but I'm just putting it out there that this first verse is really kind of a parenthetical kind of thing that's going on, kind of a summary title, overall statement of what the Most High did, and then after this is going to go in like into the steps of what was involved in the creating of everything. Okay, but we basically was looking at this verse here in this translation, so we could also see this Bereshit being translated as summit. Okay, let's keep on going here. Oh, wait, where's my cursor? Okay, there we go. All right, so the next thing we want to look at is bara. Bara. Because another thing I wanted to think about was, and we'll see this as we go on, when we look through what's going on in this first chapter, well, first of all, let's look at this word bara means to create. To create. But it's also a formative process. When we think about creating and we think about the beginning of creation, we think about the idea of creating something from nothing. Right? The Most High is able to create something from nothing. And I think when we apply this to the opening statement in terms of the Most High creating the heavens and the earth as a general statement, we can apply this idea of creation being this thing that is something out of nothing. But when we look at the process, when we look at this formative process later on down the line, as it's going through the days, things aren't necessarily being brought from nothing anymore. I just want to bring that out. We'll see that as we're going through.
Oh, thank you.
This is the word study, the complete word study here. Again, this word bara, which is translated as created, a verb meaning to create. Only Elohim is the subject of this verb. It is used for his creating heaven and earth. And we see that over in Genesis 1:1, where he created humanity. That's in verse 27. The heavenly hosts. Could somebody pull up Isaiah 40:26?
Isaiah
40 verse 26. Just reading it. It'd be too hard to go out and come back in with this. Just whoever find it, just go
Lift up
ahead.
your eyes on high and behold who have created these things that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one felleth.
Okay, good. So that's the word where it said created. That's bara there, and it's again referencing the things that the Most High created, the things that he brought forth. It talks about righteousness, salvation. We can see in these other verses, right? So when we see this word bara, it's a lot of times connected to the Most High creating. And again, we're thinking about this idea of bringing something out from nothing. I guess to a degree, we can I don't even want to say to a degree. Well, it's not exactly the same, I guess, when we think about how we create, right? Because we're kind of reforming things, right? But again, when we think about creation week, like what we think about, again, the majority of the week really is reforming. It's taking a thing and then turning it into something or purposing a thing, right? So we kind of see both. But again, if we think about again that first verse as being this kind of this title verse, this kind of thing that's describing all of the events that are coming forward, we can think about the fact that the Most High at some point brought nothing and formed it into something, and then he began to put these things in order and shape them. So I guess there's really two aspects of this idea of creating, whether it be something being brought from nothing, or the idea of shaping and forming and purposing a thing. Right, y'all sitting there eating these little things. At one point it was like it was flour.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you took the flour and made some little bagel thing. Yeah. So there was creating involved in it, even though it's not necessarily from nothing, right? Okay. Verse number 2. Anybody have any thoughts about what we just was talking about in terms of the idea of in the beginning, Elohim created? Verse 1.
You mean compliance to verse 1 or 2?
Yeah, verse 1. Yeah.
I really don't have that. I was getting ready to jump into 2, but you ain't get there yet.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about 2 right now, right? So this is interesting here, verse 2. And the earth was formless and void, even still, like even when we just even looking at this, right? And the earth, it's there, but it's formless and void, and darkness. Oh, we're gonna look it up. I
know you will.
Right. So the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim was moving over the surface of the waters. Okay, so we're gonna look at this. First of all, the earth was, right? The earth was. That word that's translated as was is actually Hayah. This is actually the root of Yod He Vav He. The root is this right here, Hayah. It literally means to exist. That is to be. There should be a space right there. To be or become, to come to pass. Always emphatic and not a mere. I actually don't know what these words copula means. I get my English dictionary out. But the word here, Hayah means to be or to exist, right? So that word, that sentence literally says the earth exists. Oh, what's that? What that mean?
A connecting word, in particular, a form of the verb be connecting a subject.
Okay, so it's always emphatic, and it's not a mere connecting word. Right? This word is not merely a connecting word. It's giving you some information about the earth, the thing that preceded it in the sentence, which was the earth. And it's telling you that it exists.
Right,
It be. The earth be. Right? It's there.
Right.
Because again, he made all of the things, right? Now he's breaking it down how he's purposing. He's purposing these things, right? But these things are there in existence because he made them to be, but now he's purposing them. But so when we look at this, it's saying the earth be. The Hebrews kind of like Ebonics a little bit, right?
Say Hebrew Ebonics.
Okay, so let's keep on going here, right? So, oh man, this is small. We can't really see this very good, but the ancient Hebrew Hayah is going to be down here when you see it's hard to see this, but you have the man with his arms raised.
The pictogram.
Strong man.
The pictographs. Yeah, so you have the man with his arms raised. You have the arm and the hand, which is the yod. This is the hay, which is the breath, and then you have the arm and the hand, which is giving you the idea of strength. You know, you do all of your work with your arm and your hand, and then there's another breath, right? So when you have this breath, and then you couple that with strength and the thing that you use to do your work with, which is your arm and your hand, and you double that back up again, you know, they're getting this idea of this being to exist, right? You have this breathing thing that's working. It's not even just sitting there doing nothing. It's working, right? With this arm in his hand. And it's continuing to breathe, right? So it's breathing, it's working, and it keeps on breathing. Mom's in the building. Okay, so that is the pictograph there of Hayah.
Yeah.
So again, we're thinking about how the earth at this point it exists, it be, right? But even though it exists, even though it be, it's formless. It's tohu. It's tohu. It is formless. It lie waste. It's a desolation,
Wasteland.
right? It's a desert.
Yeah.
Figuratively, a worthless thing. It's just there in confusion.
Right.
It's an empty place without form, nothing, right? Not vanity, waste, wilderness. That's this word here, tohu. So when we see that this is we see this this word tohu that's translated as formless. You know, when we look at that word, there's giving you all of these things in terms of the definition of that word tohu. So the earth, even though it exists, even though it be, it is formless, right? Okay, so this is more on this word tohu. And okay, just as a side note, you know, when we look at these words and do these word studies, you know, you can see these letters, how they're being used here, right?
It's just like a ball of dope.
It's just exactly.
Right.
That's
A ball. Hold on, say that again. Hold on. Where Benaiah at? Benaiah is a ball, right?
No, he ain't on. Yeah,
right.
But yeah, but yeah, it's a thing that exists that is not formed yet.
Right.
But yeah, if you was just gonna think of it like a ball of Play-Doh, that is it don't have no purpose. It don't have no. Well, I wouldn't use the metaphor of a plate, but but yeah. Okay, right. So again, no, that was him being funny.
It was a garden of flat earth.
Okay, so again, this thing is formless, confusion. This word study dictionary says that the exact meaning of this term is difficult at best, since its study is limited to its relatively few Old Testament references. It is used to describe primeval earth before the seven creative days, a land reduced to primeval chaos and formlessness. What's that? What's Isaiah 34:11 say? Because that's going to be a place where we see that this word used again. but again, it's dealing with
34:11.
34:11. Yeah, you got that? Go nice and loud.
But the cormorant and the bittern shall possess it. The owl also and the raven shall dwell in it, and he shall stretch out upon it the line of confusion and the stones of emptiness.
So there is translated as confusion. So if you think about a mind that's in confusion, right? It's not really good for anything. There's not really a purpose because of the confusion, right? When you're talking to somebody who's really confused about a thing, right? They don't know how to deal with a thing because they're confused about it, right? There's no form. If they have form in their thoughts in regards to whatever this thing is, right, then they obviously wouldn't be confused, right? So it's kind of the opposite of form. Formless, right? Okay, so let's keep going. So it was formless and void, right? So it's not. It wants to kind of, the scriptures want to kind of dial in on the formlessness of it. They didn't just want to just leave it at formlessness. It was formless and it was void, right? This word bohu, which, by the way, these words aren't connected in terms of their roots. These are primitive roots in and of themselves, tohu and bohu, but they're kind of like these what's the twins that don't look alike? Huh? They're kind of like fraternal twins, where like they have like they're giving you basically the same meaning, but they kind of look different, right? Tohu and bohu, they're not connected in terms of being a word, but that they kind of look like each other. Besides the tet and the pet. Yes, very good.
And the word sounds like
They sound like too, right?
like that's my first time wiggling this right now.
Yeah, but you know that's a bet, right? Because you got the yeah. Okay, so this word here, void. So again, the scriptures is kind of doubling up on the emphasis of the condition of this place. Is without shape, is without form, and is void, is empty, undistinguishable ruin, right? That's what is used in there to describe this thing here, void. It depicts the state of matter after Elohim had created it, but before he had fashioned it for habitation, right? And that's really what we were saying in terms of when we think about, again, going back that first verse, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. He just created everything, right? Just in general.
Created matter.
He just, atoms and all of this. What's them little things you were studying when you was in college? Neutrinos, right? All of the.
I've seen a video where God's likened this to the Big Bang Theory, saying it's not far of a different.
Yeah, I mean, this is just my personal thoughts. I wouldn't talk against the idea of the beginning coming as a result of, when a bomb is what? Is atoms and stuff, the way they deal with, I can't talk, I'm not a physicist, but the way that they deal with each other in a way, it causes explosion. Right. So I mean, life comes from a type of explosion. We could just leave it right there, right? So I'm not opposed to the idea. It's really the timeline that, that where I would say that I would differ from the idea of that as a creative theory, right? But the idea of the beginning happening from some type of explosion. It seems like it should be that, right? And if we look at this the way that it seems that it is in terms of this idea, the Most High, he creates everything. It don't talk about how he did it.
Exactly.
He just says that it happened. And then now we see this stuff that's obviously here, this earth that be, but it's formless and it's void. Now he's taking this thing and yes, and he's dealing with it, right? Yes, exactly. So the idea of that, I could go along with that. You know, that's just my personal thoughts on the matter. Okay, so hold on 1 second. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Oh, hold on. What verse did you read, Monet?
I read Isaiah 30.
34:11.
34:11.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that was the verse that I had pulled up then. So that's the same way. So this version, that what you got, the KJV? Mm-hmm. KJV says, stretch out over it the line of confusion.
Yeah, yeah.
The scripture says the line of formlessness and stones of emptiness. And I think this is a example of that tohu and bohu being used together again in another verse, which is this Isaiah 34. So again, these words, they don't come from the same word. They sound alike, but a lot of times when they're used, they're combined together, like here in Isaiah. Okay, so what is this here? The Ruach. Okay. So again, that verse. So we talk about the formlessness, the void, the darkness really is just, you know, it really is darkness there. Okay, so and the earth was formless and void, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. And the spirit of Elohim was moving over the surface of the waters. Okay, so here's something else now. We have the waters here. Right? The waters are here, the surface of the waters. And then the Ruach there says is moving over the surface, right? This little thing here, forget which commentary this is. I got this from. Ruach Elohim is not a breath of wind caused by Elohim. So the verb does not suit this meaning, but the creative spirit of Elohim, the principle of all life, which worked upon the formless, lifeless mass, separating, quickening, and preparing the living forms which were called into being by the creative words that followed. This version here of Ruach is applied to the hovering and brooding of a bird over its young to warm them and to develop their vital powers in such a way as the spirit of Elohim moved over the deep, which had received at its creation the germs of all life, to fill them with vital energy by his breath of life. I think I got one of these verses here. I did. Okay, hold on a second here. What's Deuteronomy 32:11 say?
What is it? 32 what?
32:11.
Got it.
Good.
All right.
As an eagle stirs up its nest, flutters over its young, spreading out its wings,
Mhm.
taking them up, bearing them on its wings.
Yeah, so that flutter, right, is that thing flapping its wings there, but that word there is the ruach, or it's a form of that word ruach, right? So dealing with the fact that the spirit is hovering over the surface, and then as we see what's getting ready to happen, things is about to be so when you think about the ruach, when we think about the in being manifest, right? And we know if we think about John, where it talks about the fact that Elohim was the word, and the word was Elohim, and the word was with Elohim, and then the fact that the word was created. I mean, everything that was created by the word, right? So when we think about the word, and then so that's John. If we think about what is it, Proverbs chapter 8. Proverbs. Got my old-fashioned Bible. Yeah, I got it here. It's right here. Proverbs chapter 8 really deals with the idea of, so we know that if we think about how John describes Yeshua in terms of the word being the creator, right?
What verse is that? 8.
Well,
You started at 1.
I'm basically talking about the whole chapter 8 is really, but I'm not going to read it, but I'm just saying in terms of the context of Proverbs chapter 8 is dealing with wisdom now being the creator, right? Wisdom created everything, right? So that's what we see in Proverbs chapter 8. But when you think about wisdom and how wisdom compares to the word, because again, we're not going to say that, well, the Old Testament said wisdom created everything. Yeah, well, the New Testament said the word created everything, right? But when we think about wisdom, the way that wisdom is manifest is through action, right? When you're able to be, because the word to be wise is really to be skillful, which again is action. So you experience, to be skillful and experienced, right? But this is all through manifestation, right? So when we talk about the idea that all of these things are created through wisdom, the manifestation of the wisdom is how these things is carried out, right? So when we think about the word being the Most High in the flesh, right, it's the manifestation of the wisdom, right? That wisdom coming forth. If I got all this wisdom in my mind, how you gonna know I got it? Unless I manifest it, right? If it come out through words or actions, right? Manifest, right?
So is that like just before, just saying, for instance, like when I was out there just doing my own thing, right? And I wasn't being wise, but just growing and just being wise, and now my actions are different than they were before, and it's just, is that what it is? Like, because it's usually they say the older guys are wise, but that was from things that they've been through, things that they have, you know what I mean, learned or seen, or just being wise and taking that and
being able to apply it today, like the way that you were before. We was just young and reckless. We was just living. Yeah, I mean, that's what I always say. We were just living. But the older you get, the more that you go through. Now you can look back and see, oh man, I should have went left here when I could have, when I went right. And that's the wisdom.
Yeah.
Now your wisdom, your process of thinking things through are different because you're more wise to what the consequences is. We don't, as young, we don't look at the consequences. We just want to go. You know what I mean? But now you're older, you're looking at it like, nah, if I do go right, last time I went right, I ended up doing 6.
Right.
Now
you
if
play,
I go
play that movie now.
I ain't even got to worry about.
Hey, you play that movie now.
Exactly.
Because when I was in the whole tank down at ACJ one day, I was just thinking to ask. I said, everybody, let me ask y'all a question. I said, how many of y'all are thinking right now, if only I would have stayed in the bed? They all bust out laughing.
Right.
You know, so I get what you're saying.
The accumulation of knowledge doesn't have anything to do with wisdom. Because again, we think about wisdom, it's being skillful. So it's skillfully using your knowledge. Right. I could get a whole bunch of knowledge and then I could do things based on the knowledge. But am I skillfully doing the things based on the knowledge? That's the difference.
Like the Facebook post that's out there, I mean, you can learn all the scripture you want, but if you ain't applying it to your life, it's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you gotta apply this thing. We can learn all we want.
That's called head knowledge.
If I'm still doing the same things that I was doing before, me learning this means absolutely nothing.
Right.
Everybody that knows us, like you said, you know what I mean? People be like, oh, if the Ruach and the Most High change you, you know what I mean? But the fact that you're showing them that you changed is you living out the scriptures. Man.
Right.
You can quote a million scriptures, but not have no wisdom of what the scriptures are saying.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because it's not really, because that's what we just have to make the distinction between knowledge. Sometimes I don't even like to talk about it as knowledge. Sometimes you just hear me talk just think about it as information.
Right.
You know, I could sit up here and learn a bunch of facts and know a bunch of things.
Right.
But until I'm able to allow these things to kind of all get together and function properly, that's not wisdom. And then so when we think about, again, all of this wisdom and the word, and then looking back over at this verse 2 is the Ruach, right? The Ruach is what it talks about as being this thing that's hovering over the surface, right? So you even have the Ruach involved in this thing that's creating this, you know, these creating powers are kind of emanating from the presence of the Almighty here, right? So again, when we think about I said that just to say that wisdom is connected with the spirit, right? The wisdom is connected with the spirit, especially when we're talking about this biblical wisdom or wisdom that's coming from the Almighty, right? You know, that's the key, right? If anyone can look and memorize words, right? But it takes the Ruach to actually transform your heart and your mind and really bring you to the place where you're actually changed on the inside, right? But when we see here, getting back to this, right? The Ruach is hovering and dealing with the surface of the earth like the eagle in verse 11 of Deuteronomy 32 is hovering over its baby birds and causing them to be ready to receive you know, all of the nourishment that is about to pour out into it. So it's almost as if the spirit is kind of like prepping the ground and everything, prepping this formless, chaotic space, which is just is so profound when you think about it. Is that in order really to receive that spirit, to receive it, the ground, which is you, really got to be prepared, right? It's the spirit that causes you really to even have that beginning, those beginning thoughts of faith, right? Really actually even come from the Ruach, right? So we see that kind of right there where the spirit is just kind of just, as it says, is just hovering, just preparing, like, because nothing happened yet, right? But the spirit is just getting getting everything ready to receive the change.
Right. You know what? Well, when you was talking about the wisdom and the knowledge and stuff, you know, it just dawned on me before you can get all the knowledge, information you want, but in order to operate in wisdom, you got to have understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You can't operate with wisdom if you don't have understanding of the information that's given to you. So even the scripture says, above all, ask understanding. Ask for understanding. You know. But
you all day, everything.
are you still talking about 2 or what? About the
No, that's verse 2.
Oh, we is in verse 2?
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to point out something. You know, I'm tired of them getting me in these little minor elementary debates about when the Sabbath end or begin and this and that, but it's plain as day in scripture. I mean, even y'all started off with darkness and created light, you know, where he said the evening, then it's night, even the evening. It's one day, you know.
Well,
I just wanted to point that out.
We're gonna get in. We're gonna definitely get into that.
Thank you. I
For sure. We can't help it because it's just right there, right? It's
See,
just
you know
waiting.
what? You like Allstate. I'm in good hands.
Okay, so let's keep on going here, right? Okay, so we had all that preparation, right?
Yeah.
And then Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. Light is or illumination, concretely luminary in every sense, including lighting, happiness, bright, clear. When we see this plus sign, I think it's kind of metaphorically speaking. That's what this plus sign here I think means. Day, light, morning, sun. Right. So this word or let there be light is illumination. Right. So we had darkness. It was darkness, it was void, it was emptiness, it was chaotic, and confusion.
That's the interesting thing. Chaotic.
Right.
Confusing.
That's what you got with that emptiness
Right.
and darkness before. But now I can't even deal with any of those things unless I can see it.
Right.
Right. If I got a room that's full of trash all over the place, I can't really clean it without being able to see where the trash is at. Right. I can't see it. Right. The first thing you got to do is turn the lights on. Right. I got to be able to see. I got to have some type of revelation. I got to, the things that's in the dark need to be brought to the light so that I can deal with those things. And that's the good thing about light, right? You're trying to find something, right? You got to be able to see it, right? So the first thing we see there is illumination, right? Or
find my glasses when I wake up in the morning.
yeah,
I'm like,
right.
You said, let there be light.
Let there be light. You gotta be able to see.
Light.
Mm-hmm.
And Elohim saw the light.
Okay, so let's go ahead and read that.
And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. Let me say that again. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning. One day.
Yeah. So we see that the Most High now he said, "Let there be light." He saw that there was light, and then he begins to talk about these things that he made and recognizing that these things are good, right? So he saw the light and saw that it was good, right? And then he made a distinction, a separation. Again, when we think about the fact that the earth before it was formless, and it was without purpose. So when we see this word here, separated, we have this idea of a purpose, purposing and distinction, right? I can have two individuals, right, who maybe I'm the boss and I got two workers, right? At some point I have to be able to distinguish tasks and appoint individuals to these separate tasks, right? So when we see this idea that's being expressed in this word that's translated as separated, is kind of making kind of declaring a separation, because there's an automatic separation in the fact that, you know, light and darkness are two different things, right? But in terms of purpose, I think there's purpose in this word here that's translated as separated, and distinction. And we'll see this as we go forward, because other things are being kind of separated, dedicated to certain
like when you clean a room, you order
order.
Places.
Yeah.
If you take something that's chaos and you make it into something that's not, if I have a knot and I'm going to separate out, you know what I mean?
Untie
it. It's adding the order to the chaos.
Right. Which is what this what is like in the process of going. You have darkness, which really is the chaos, and then you have this light that's being added to it. And just by simple fact that it's being added to it, it makes a separation. Right? The separation is created by the fact that I brought light to the situation. The thing that I'm bringing to the situation is causing the separation, which is the light. Okay, so when we see this, right, we see from nothing to something, right? We had nothing, then we had something. We had darkness, and then we had light. We had from even to morning, and then we see that we had chaos to order. So you have this kind of a little pattern thing that goes on with this whole situation. Okay, so we also want to look at this word here.
What, young?
I don't think I have this definition here. Somebody pull that up.
You want me to pull it up?
Like I don't know, Strong or something.
I'm in here now.
Yum.
You want the Strong? That's all.
Yes, the Strong's is good. I don't think I put it on there.
From an unused meaning to be hot, a day as the warm hours, whether literally from sunrise to sunset.
Oh, my bad. I did have it. I couldn't remember if I put it on there or not. My bad. This is Strong's right here, but you could just read that. Yeah, go ahead.
Just reading it?
Yeah.
Okay. Or figuratively, a space of time defined by an associated term, often used adverbially. Age always chronicles continually, continuance, daily, birth each.
Okay, so there's a lot of ways that we can look at the word yom, is the point here, I guess. People like to look at this part here to be hot, or the hot part of the day, the warm hours, which it does mean that, but it also means the whole day. That includes all of the parts of the day. So we have to remember that this word is a word that can be used many different ways, right? It most definitely does mean the hot part of the day, but there's also a part of the day that's not necessarily the hot part, right? So the day includes the whole day includes the a hot part and like a McDLT, right? You got the hot side is hot and the cold side is cold, right? You guys don't. You saying what? You probably don't remember the McDLT.
Yeah, I remember that.
You remember the McDLT? Huh? Yeah, the little flat styrofoam thing. You got the bread and the lettuce and tomato on the one side.
Hey, that's what I used
and
to eat.
then the meat and the cheese on the bread on the other side. You get that thing and you put them back together, right? That's funny. Okay, so that's funny. So there are a couple of things going on here when we look at this word day back in that verse, right? First of all, the word yom is being used two ways, right? The light part of the day, the part that is lit up, that's illuminated, is called yom, right? And this is obviously the light part of the day, right? And that's called yom. But then the whole period is referred to as yom when it says that is day one. It's the first day, right? So even in that verse there, we seeing that the word day is used in two different ways in terms of the light.
What verse? In verse
5. Yeah.
Okay, these two different ways.
Right, because he called the light day. He called the light he called day. And then he says, then there was evening and morning, and then that was one day. Right. So he used it, and we saw in the definition that yes, it means the hot part of the day, but it also could mean the whole day. Right. So we got to be able to look at this. I talked to somebody before who they wanted to go and say, well, I have this ancient dictionary and it gives you the definition of yom and it only talks about the hot part of the day. Well, the problem is that in the context of the Bible, every time you see yom, it's not talking about only the hot part of the day, because we have to take in consideration the calendar day.
And even if it does, what do you call the rest of it? I mean, like if we're only talking about the hot part of the day, what do we call the rest of it? What is that time considered?
Well, it does have a name, but it does have a name, but it is in the context of a whole calendar day, though. Right? We'll see what the name, how it's split up. We can see that too as we keep on going. But I'm just saying that we can't look at the word yom because we see in that verse right there is a perfect example. We'll see it as throughout the whole chapter. But here's an example where it's literally naming the light part of the day. And then it also talks about the whole day in terms of the, for lack of the better word, I'm putting my fingers in the air, the calendar day, like the whole day. Okay, so we're going to keep on going here.
If you don't, then you don't have full, you didn't account for all your hours.
Yeah.
You just accounted for
half of the day.
And sometimes less than half in the winter.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. You just counted for the light part of the day. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to keep on going here. I just wanted to bring that out. Because when we look again, now we're talking about the other part, right? It said there was even and there was morning the first day. So let's understand what evening even is, right? Erev, right? The masculine noun referring to evening, dusk, night. It is used consistently to indicate the close of the day, evening, sunset. The phrase let's see here. What we want to look at is this word erev. Let's look at the Strongs here. This is the Strongs here. I wanted to look at that just so we could see the root of this word erev. Just again saying day, evening, evening, tide, night. But we got to look at the root to understand what the concept of the word, that makes up this word is. So looking at these roots, let's see here. Arav. Actually, there's no dagish. Arav, that should be. Through the idea of covering with a texture, to grow dusky at sundown, to be darkened toward evening. Identical with, we still looking at these same three letters, right? But these vowel points are changing, giving you other words, but they're all connected to each other. But we're trying to figure out what erev actually is, or arab, which is saying here is identical with this word, which means to braid. This is what we want to get to right here. To braid, that is intermixed, technically to traffic, as if by barter. Also to give or be security, intermeddle, mingle. All these are good things, because when you think about erev is that mixture. Erev is the mixture. Is that time when we look out, we can't see the sun, it's beneath the horizon, but the light is still there. It's an intermix. It's when the light and the darkness are interwoven with each other. They're braided, like you sit up there and put some braid in a hair, right? So that word even is different from night. It's the beginning of the night. It's when it is when it begins.
Right.
It's the mixture. Right? And then there's another word that means night, which is when it's all the way dark. But this erev here is, again, we took it all the way to the bottom in terms of understanding what the root of this word is, where it's an intermix, to mingle. So again, at even is that time when we look out in the sky and it's the sun is below the horizon. We can't see the sun anymore, and it's kind of darkening. It's that darkening period where it's beginning to get dark, and darkness is it don't even last very long. Well, it's longer than minutes, but it's like a period in time, right? A little window. That's erev.
I actually saw it happen. I sat there and watched.
And that's why it's like intermingled, like dusk.
It was a punishment to us, but it was pleasure and stuff for the Gentiles. But I learned that it was pleasure for me too. It wasn't no punishment, but I used to sit in the mountains and watch. Yeah. I used to watch the sunrise and the sunset. It used to blow my mind, man. I'm like, wow, I can actually see the dark, turning into day, and the day going away by day, going in the night. I used to see that. I used to be amazed by that.
Right. So when we see where it talks about, it says it was evening and there was morning. So when we look at morning, it's the same thing as erev in terms of what it looks like. If you was like in a coma or something, you went into a coma when it was evening time, when it's erev, and then you came out of your coma and it was morning. Technically, morning is it looks exactly like erev and boker, or they look exactly the same because it's a mixture. One's like going out and one's like going in. Morning is different from day morning is that beginning section that when we sit up there and we go to the beach and we watch the sun rising, that you can sit out there for a few minutes and it be light, and you know the sun's about to peek up out of the horizon, but it ain't there yet. That's Boker proper. That's morning. That sun is coming up, and then once it busts out from underneath the horizon, now then you got day.
Right.
But that little, as it's breaking, that dawn period, which is just like a little section in time, just like Erev, it's the same thing. Either the sun's coming up, which is Boker, or it's going down, it's Erev. But again, there's the things that are incorporated with it. If you just say you can't get to morning without night. You got Erev, but the only thing that's mentioned is even and morning.
Right.
It's the only thing that's mentioned. But night, huh?
Evening and morning for the first day.
Yeah. It just mentioned that he called the light day.
No, but what I'm saying is that the night part isn't mentioned.
Right.
But you can't get to it.
You can't get from the evening.
You can't get from even to morning without it. You can't get there.
Yeah.
So this is interesting to me because I think about Boker as being morning, like all morning until noon, basically.
Yeah, which is wrong.
But that's not really the biblical Boker.
Yeah.
Biblical Boker is when the sun's coming up.
Right.
And then when the sun is up, it's day.
Right.
I think a lot of people have a problem with the word dawning. Because I've seen them use that. What dawning? It means dawning.
Yeah.
It's already morning. No, it's not already morning.
Yeah, dawning.
It's in transition.
Dawning, when it's coming up, dawning is Boker. That's what Boker is.
Right. It's transition. I'm talking about for daylight.
Yeah.
Dawning means day. No, it's transitional. It's transitioning.
Once you get to day,
but that's when it started.
Right. But if you can use common sense,
it starts at the mixture.
You can use common sense when the birds sing praise to Yah.
That's when
thanking them for an oncoming day.
That's Boker.
My computer, right?
That's Boker.
And I used to hear the birds chirping. I look out the window. It's still dark.
And it's crazy because,
right?
Like
it's still dark.
My body's alarm waits to that before my actual alarm goes off.
Right.
And I'll be mad looking out the window like, I don't even know where they chirping. It's still dark.
It's still dark.
Got at least another 15
I know, because that's how our minds is programmed.
Now I'm already like, all right, I'm up when the alarm goes off. Now I have no choice but to get up.
Yeah. But it really depends on where your perspective, where you are, because I remember I was driving home and due west was to the left of me as I was driving home. So I could see the sun going down.
Right.
So it still looked light over there. But when I look on the right side of me, it was dark over there.
Yeah.
Right. So it really depends on your perspective. But you're right, the animals are in tune.
Right.
When it's Boker, they know, and then they start chirping.
Right.
When it's Boker, because it's that time where that sun is starting to come out, starting to peek out from up underneath the horizon, and it's coming.
Right.
The animals, they know. We the ones that's mixed up. We need our little alarm clocks.
We talk about the division. Was the horizon part of that division?
What you mean? In terms of saying what Boker is?
Because the horizon is the thing that kind of sets the horizon is the thing that kind of like resets things. Hits the horizon, or it corrects.
I mean, from our perspective, from our perspective.
It's not really the moon necessarily.
Well, why are you saying the moon?
Well, we didn't get to the moon yet.
Yeah, we didn't get to the moon yet.
But I was going to say that the moon can be out in the middle of the day, especially when it's a full moon.
Yeah,
it's out in the middle of the day.
The moon's out a lot during the day. Yeah.
It's always because we can't see it.
When it's too close to the sun, you can't see it. But when it's far away, then you can see it. It's the same thing with the new. We didn't get there, but when you see the first crescent moon, It's following behind the sun the whole day, but you can't see it because it's so bright. But once that sun gets below the horizon, now you can see it. So for a couple hours, you're able to see the moon in the sky because it's falling behind the sun on the horizon. But that new moon, like I said, since it's so close, you just got. So I can't go out when it's completely dark and find a new moon.
Yeah,
it's already beneath the horizon. Yeah, it's been gone.
They'll be like, I didn't see the moon. I'm looking right now. I don't see it in the sky. And I'm like, well, you're not going to see it in the sky because you missed it.
Right. You have to see it at even. That's the only time you can see it at Erev. Because when it becomes night, that first crescent's already below the horizon.
Right. So I was saying that when we talked about dividing, the horizon is part of the division.
Well, as far as how we see it, but I'm saying that the dividing is, and this is just how I'm thinking about it. I'm saying that the dividing is coming as a result of the things that are being made. So he said, I divided the light from the dark. But I'm saying that the division came when he made the light.
Right.
Not like he made the light and then he made this divider that he put in it.
Right.
I'm saying the thing that he made is
once he was making things, he made the distinction.
Well, the thing made the distinction.
Right. Because when he created
it's not like I make a boy and then I divided it from a girl. Like when it was a boy, just by very definition of it being a boy, divided it from. I'm saying like when he made the light, him making the light,
since dark was already there,
yeah,
he made it, it automatically caused the separation,
right? And then he named this. He named it.
Just like he had man, then when he made woman, that woman was the separation from man. Like it was basically the same thing,
right? Yeah,
that's what separated.
Yeah,
the creation of woman.
Mm-hmm. So that's how I'm thinking about it. Not saying that that's how it is. It just seems to be that when I'm looking at it, and that's just my thoughts on the situation. But yeah. So again, we're looking at this whole idea of Erev and Boker, evening and morning. There are these periods of time when light and darkness, even when we think about the idea of Erev and Boker, there's not a distinct line. That's at the point where there's a mixture. And then once the light is all the way gone, or the light all the way comes, then you have a distinction, right? You have night all the way when there's no more Erev, when the light's all the way gone.
Right.
It's not like cut and dry, like it just like we sit up here and turn the light switch off. But in nature, it's a dimmer switch. Yeah, it's a timed dimmer that's going out. Slowly the light is decreasing and slowly the light comes back. So there was some righteous people who came up with that dimmer switch. Because they was emulating nature, right? When they did that. Yeah.
I was just thinking that before. They got light switches like that.
Yeah.
My mom
had one in her house.
Yeah. Okay, again, this is the root of Boker here, to plow or to break forth. And again, that's that morning time when that sun is breaking forth out of the horizon. Right. Okay, so we have also, there is the question of when does the day begin, which is important as it relates to other things that we'll go into later. Okay. And there came to be evening and there came to be morning one day. So when I look at this as being the culmination of the description of the day, right? The evening and the morning in one day, with each one of these parts in terms of even and morning, including the time of the day that's connected to it. In terms of evening, being connected to night, and then morning being connected to day, right? He called the daytime, he called the light part, he called day, the dark time he called night. Those things together make up a whole day. So we see over here where it says, and there was evening and there was morning and there was day. You have that beginning part where it came in, where it started at darkness, right? And then the light coming in is the hot part, and then the day part, and then you come back around to the whole thing over again.
You know where I think where I peeped that when I was in dialogue with a couple young brothers before they started talking foolish, but they confused the word day, because what I was trying to explain to them, when the scriptures was talking about a full day, we resolved it to evening to evening, which brings evening light back to evening. Because it's the one full day. Oh, day. You heard what you just said? That's light. I said, no, not day as in daylight. Yeah. Day is in a complete day. Yeah. That's where they get. I see that now. Yeah. I see where they fall in error because they lack the understanding of what a whole day is.
Right. You're not taking into account the fact that the word yom is more than just a hot part of the day.
Right.
Once you kind of narrow it down and say that yom is only the hot part, then you got problems. And even in the we saw in one particular verse where it was used to describe everything. Right. So that it does that all throughout the scriptures, right? We can see where it's literally talking about a whole calendar day,
right?
Yom,
really?
or just like the hot part of the day, you can't box Yom in for it to only mean the hot part, because that's just not how it's used in the scriptures. Yeah.
So does that because you hear a lot of different thoughts about when Yahshua rose. Mm-hmm. We know it wasn't the first day. We know it wasn't Sunday, but it was that dust part. Like it's not dark, but it's not light. Now, what part of the day is that? It's like at the end of the Shabbat, just about, but not quite the new day.
It's in transition.
Yeah, so it depends on what you're talking about, but again, whatever the sun, if the sun's going down, then that would be Erev. That would be evening. If it's coming up, then that's Boker.
Okay, it was going down.
So so that's a transition.
Yes, it was going down,
but it wasn't down completely.
Right. No, so if it's going down, then that's Erev. If it's going down, then that's Erev. If it's coming up, then that's a Boker. If it's going down, then that's the transition into the next day. If it's coming up, that's just a continuation of the same day.
I used the example of Yeshua's sacrifices to explain that metaphor, which you're speaking of, and as Moray and Donnie Yahoo brought to my attention, even the thief and the robber on the side, their death was quickened because the upcoming Shabbat, which was coming evening, the setting of the sun. So they had to break their legs and do what they had to do to quicken their death. When they get to Yeshua, he was already gone. But they had to take him down because of the coming of the Sabbath. And here's another instant, like she was talking about, when Mary and them went to go to the tomb, it was the first day. But as they tell you, very early. So it was still dark out. Right. It was still dark out. It was, how you say, Boker was coming, but it was still dark out, right? So when they went to the tomb, the angel told them, he's not here. He's already gone. So that's evidence of telling you he arose at the end of the Sabbath. Right. Special events happen during those times. Shut up.
Okay, so let us keep on going here. Then Elohim said, hold on, what verse is it? 6? verse 6. Then Elohim said, let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate again the waters from the waters. So now we have the separation of the water and the sky, right? Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. what does the KJV say for verse 6?
God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
Oh, it says water still in that too. Expanse is firmament. Expanse is firmament, meaning an expanse, the firmament, an extended surface. Literally, the word refers to a great expanse, and in particular, the vault of the heavens above the earth. It denotes the literal sky that stretches from horizon to horizon. The heavens above that contain the sun, moon, and the stars, or any vaulted ceiling or expanse that stands above. By extension, the psalmist uses the word to refer to the infinite and sweeping power of the Almighty. So when it talks about let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters. So he makes that firmament or that expanse, and then it says, and let it separate the waters from the waters. Right? So the thing that he kind of brought into being, which is this firmament or the expanse, became the separation between the waters, which would be the waters, like the waters, and then the waters in the sky, basically. Because we know really the heavens, the sky really is water. That's what he did right here. He got water that's solid water, and then he has that the sky water. Sky water. That's so scientific. Okay, it's verse 7. And Elohim made the expanse or the firmament and separated the waters which were below, and the firmament or the expanse from the waters which are above the expanse. And it was so. And Elohim called the expanse or the firmament heaven, and there was evening and morning the second day. Right? He's going to keep on saying this over and over again. Evening and morning the second day. Right? And again, when he says this second day, he's talking about all of these things that's incorporated in this whole day, not just the day part. Right? Okay, so again, we see the Most High is forming. He's still forming and purposing, all of the parts of the earth, right? Whether it be the waters, he just made the separation between the waters now, but I think in day 3, it's going to. Day 3 takes it a step further, right? So verse 10, and Elohim called the dry land and earth and gathered of the waters, and then he called seas, and Elohim saw that it was good. So from the waters that he separated from the sky waters, he gathered those waters together, and then the stuff that was left over he called earth. And then the waters he called seas. Right? So, but it isn't as if he didn't make any earth right there, right? It was there, right? He just pulled the waters together and told them to stop right over there. It's interesting when you go to the edge of I guess I've been to the edge of a couple places. But a whole bunch of times I've been to the edge of America where the water just stops just right over there. Right. Right. For whatever reason, it don't come past that little spot.
That's creepy.
Throughout the day, it might come up a little bit, but it just, unless something bad happened, it just stayed just right over there. Yeah. Yeah, at the coast. If you're at the coast, right? Yeah. Not the well, you can't just say beach in general because the first beach I was at Moraine State Park. That was the first beach I ever been to, right? And that is not a real beach.
Beach.
Yeah. but I'm saying like at the coast. When you at the coast, yeah, when you standing over there where the Atlantic Ocean is.
It'll come like when I sit at the edge of the shore, like sometimes, but it don't make you right.
And it's not because that's a hill that's too steep for the water to climb.
It just don't.
Most High just said, you just stop right there. Until I tell you. Yeah. And then that's what it do, right? Now, I've lived in a place where there was a hurricane where the water came past this little boundary mark, yeah. But again, that's just special.
It's scary when it comes past.
It look crazy. It just keep on coming. It just come. Yeah. But again, those are extenuated circumstances. But in general, there's that division where he gathered up the land. The land has this kind of sticking point, and then the water's on the other side. And the Most High said it was good, right, when he did that.
Then there's the models that do have the water on the top of the water.
What you mean, like the picture?
Yeah.
Oh, like the firmament being like the bubble on top?
Yeah, a little bubble.
Yeah.
We're like in the middle of a water bubble.
Yeah, I guess in that model, I don't know where the stars are. Are the stars in the bubble? Or they all everything's in the bubble. I can't talk about the bubble because I don't know anything about it.
Everything is inside of the bubble.
Oh.
Living inside of a bubble.
Yeah.
He's all over the bubble.
Yeah, Christian knows about the bubble. I can't speak on it, but everything I guess is in the bubble. Yeah, I don't either. We had to get later another time.
Yeah, I'm just chilling. You know what I'm saying? I'm letting you go, bro.
Yeah. Okay, so verse 11. Then Elohim said, hey, can you read that verse 11 right there? 11 and 12. Oh, and 13.
11 and 13.
12, 13.
And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth. And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the third day.
Okay, so we see in the third day, we have a lot of things going on in terms of this kind of the earth being separated out in the seas, and then on the earth we have these vegetations and plants, the food, right? These seed yielding things, vegetation and plants and all these things. When you think about this in totality, we see how the Most High, he makes all of the things. He sets up it's almost like when you think about the idea of finding the best case scenario of finding a wife, where you go and you set up shop, you make your place to dwell, you have everything right and ready, and then you bring in your wife, right? the Most High, when he created, he got all of the things together, right? He made the earth where it could be the way that it was supposed to be, right? And he's setting up everything, putting everything in order, again, taking chaos and bringing order to all of these things, the earth, the seas, the skies, and so on and so forth, making everything right, so that when he gets to that sixth day, you know, everything will be there ready for the creation. Because when you think about all of these things, really was created for, you know, man in this habitation in this land, right? These things was all created for him. We'll see that as when we get there, but we see that everything is being put in place one by one, the Most High putting order to all of these things, all of these plants yielding seed after their kind. I learned something, you know, because I think about the fact that these things that bear forth seeds are supposed to be our food, right? But I've grown greens before, but I was trying to figure out how do they grow? Like, where's the seed part at?
They put them there.
Well,
Yeah, but his question is like when the greens, like when we eat greens, where's the seed at is the question. So I mean, like, is it in the stem? Yeah, to replant it. Like, where do you get the seed from the green itself to replant?
Like some collards, for instance.
Right. Like if we go out in the garden and we pull greens and we're cleaning them and everything, where do we get the seed to replant? Is his question.
Isn't the greens more of a rooted vegetable though? They stem from roots and not just like a seed.
But there so
even rooted vegetables have seeds, though.
Still has to come from something. You know what I mean? Like anything that you
I do know the answer, by the way. I just was spinning.
You must have asked me what's grown up himself. How did you
okay, so what happens is if you let your greens just sit there and grow, and instead of pulling the whole thing up, just take the leaves off. Right. What you got to do is let those things stay in the ground over the winter. It dies, and when it comes back to life, these little sprouts will come up that the seeds are on. The same thing with onions and garlic does the same thing. They got these little bulbs that grow on them, and then in those bulbs, the seeds come out. So things, even leafy things that we look at where it don't seem like it got seeds, if you keep it in the ground and just let it go through its cycles, it got seeds.
Is that the same thing with potatoes?
Potatoes.
They'll still grow out of the potatoes.
Potatoes, I don't.
Because if you let a potato sit long, instead of it going bad, potatoes be growing out of them.
Yeah, them little roots will come out. It's a root. Now the potato's a root. It's a root though. I don't know if it got seeds. I don't think it got seeds. Because
they call eyes.
Yeah, they're gonna grow out roots. It's gonna sprout out, and then that grows out of that. I don't know that potatoes don't got seeds on.
No, they don't. Well, they gotta have seeds because the little potatoes be coming out of them. Like if you just let a potato sit, it don't go bad. It be like little white potatoes.
I've grown potatoes before. If you take a couple potatoes and cut them and let the kind of skin grow over top a little bit, and then plant them like that. You put like 2 little potatoes in some dirt and leave it there, and you come out with like a whole bunch of potatoes. I did try.
Turn my backyard into a hole.
It worked when you tried it like that?
They were little ones, but they did grow, yeah.
Little tiny potatoes.
Yeah. But I don't know if it's seed though, because it's a root. That's a root vegetable, right? Like potatoes and carrots and rutabaga is all root. So you really eating a root
of the vegetable.
And
so then I guess the potato, what would happen is a plant comes off the potato, and a plant that comes off the potato has the seed in it. Because you're eating the root of the plant.
Yeah. I don't know the science of that. I'm not even pretending to know. Okay, I'm gonna keep on going. Okay, let's look at this. Verse 14. Read, let's see. Let's read that one there.
Just 14.
Yeah.
And Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times and for days and years.
I think I'm about to run out of slides pretty soon anyway, I think. Okay, so let them be for signs and appointed times and for days and hold on. Read I just put that there, but what was read oh, that's not 14, is it? Oh yeah, it is. 14. Read 14 all the way through 19, I think. Yeah, 14 through 19.
14 again. And Elohim said, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. And it came to be so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fourth day.
Okay, all right. I guess that was the end. I can put up the scriptures then. I ran out of slides right there. Let me pull that up real quick. Okay, 1 second here. 1 second. Okay, very good. All right, let me get this over here real quick. Okay, so we see over in 14 talks about the fact that these lights in the sky, these lights that are the sun and the moon, the greater light and the lesser light, the sun and the moon, and also the stars, we will use for signs, for appointed times, for days, and for years. Right? So one of the things where I think about how we have, and I used to think about in regards to the calendar when people talk about the barley, and barley being like the identifier for when a year starts, right? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna look for the barley and when I see the barley, I'm going to declare a year to be so. But for me, if I look at Genesis 1, verse 14, it says, as we read, let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times and for days and years. So if I want to know what the year is, or if I want to know what the day is, or if I want to know what appointed times are, or signs are, it don't tell me to look at the agriculture. It don't tell me to do that.
Right.
Right. So you got people who this year in particular, it seems like every year is a thing. You got a whole bunch of people, they went out and they found barley, and then they said it was going to be an extra month. There wasn't going to be an extra month, and they was finding it, and then it was like it was snowing, like right. But they started their year over based on the fact that they saw something in the agriculture.
Right.
But when he made these lights in the sky, he told us what they was going to be used for.
Right.
And so for me, that was always the determining factor, the thing that let me know if I want to know what these times are, years, days, appointed times, or signs, all I gotta do is look at the lights in the sky, because that's what he put them there for, right?
Right.
So let's look at some of these here. Let me pull this up. All the things that I'm supposed to be looking at the lights in the sky for. So the first thing would be, it says here, the signs.
And that in Hebrew is
Oat. Oat. Let me put that over here.
In the sense of...
So let's see here. It is a masculine noun meaning sign, signal, mark, miracle. This word is used often to describe awe-inspiring events. Elohim's work to bring the Hebrew people out of Egypt. So a sign, miracles, verifying the Most High's message. So signs, so we can know signs of the times, things that are markers or identifiers in regards to times and seasons, not on agriculture, but from the lights in the sky. Signal, flag, beacon, monument. So our markers are time markers, which the rest of these all are in terms of seasons and days and years. All of these things, evidence, signs, tokens, again, are all in the sky, the sun and the moon and even the stars. Seasons, moed is translated as seasons here in the King James. Properly an appointment. That is a fixed time or season, festival, conventionally a year, by implication, a assembly convened or a definite purpose, congregation, extension, place, meeting. When we think about Moedim, so Moed, we think about Moed times or appointments. The feast days definitely fit into that category in terms of being these appointments, whether we're talking about the Sabbath day or any of the feast days, unleavened bread, Passover, Sukkot, Feast of Booths, trumpets,
Okay.
all of these things are all appointments.
I gotta get my bag. I'll
So
be
to
down.
know,
Yeah, I gotta get some food. Of course. All right. You might have to help me.
let me put this on here.
All right.
Okay, so when we think about the Most High's appointments, his appointed times, this verse right here is telling us that we need to look to the lights in the sky in order to know when those are, whether it be the sun or the moon, right? The lights in the sky is a thing that's telling us when his appointed times are. So if we want to know what the first month is, his appointed time that's in the first month, if we want to know what that is, again, it's not telling us to look and see what the crops are doing. And people's main verse that they go to is that verse in Exodus where it talks about the hail coming down and it beating on the vegetation that was there. And they say, well, look, the agriculture was in a certain stage at that time because you could tell because the hail was coming down and beating down on the a big barley.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is the Most High didn't tell us to find out what the month was based on that. He didn't tell us that. He specifically told us that we could know when his appointments were. Hey, he can know what our appointments are based on the lights in the sky that he put there for that purpose. We're able to know when the day comes and when it goes based on looking at the sun. Right? We're able to know when months, when they come and when they go by looking at the cycle of the moon. Right? We're able to know when the years are, when the complete cycle of a year has gone by looking at the sun, by looking at the things, the lights that he put up there for us to see and use for those purposes.
Do you think, question real fast, do you think that that's why, like in the Bible, it seems as though that people live so long, like they was 100 and something, because we are the ones that's messed up for us 12-month years and it's, you know what I mean? So do you think that is that the reason why? Because,
well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that the counting of time made people live longer.
Not the counting of time, but if you take the calendar out and you use what you're supposed to use, it might be. You get what I'm trying to say? It might be more
beneficial.
Well, he said in the scriptures where life wasn't going to be that long anymore. It says it's going to be 120 years.
Due to corruption.
Yeah.
So you can see where he went and said how, you know, man's not going to sit up here and live all these years no more. He's going to live this point in time, and then even by the time the psalmist comes along, he said a man is appointed 70 years or whatever, basically 70 years. So right, isn't it say that 70? I think that's in the song.
I'm almost dead.
Yeah, you getting kind of close there, bro. But you're doing good with your health and all that stuff. So you might get 120. Some of these other people got all these little things on them and stuff. It might be, but you can see where he said he's not gonna let man live that long no more. Right. So it didn't really have nothing to do, because when we look at, I'll just pull it up real quick.
Now all this handmade stuff is shorter. It's shorter than that.
Because they were strong back then anyway.
Genesis 6:3. 6:3 says, and Yahweh said, my spirit shall not always strive with a man, for that he also is flesh, yet his day shall be 120 years. Right. So the Most High declared it, and you know that was the cutoff point. Now when we look at how, now we're able to look at the way that the Most High said for us to calculate time and do it according to the lights in the sky, and it's really the same length almost, but the patterns is kind of different. Like how we sit up here and say that January is the beginning of the year. Right? Every year, but it's winter time. Everything's dead.
But spring coming around the same time I
but when we look like the equinox, though, it really takes a whole 365 days for that time to come back around again. That's not always a starting point in terms of it's not like day one when the sun gets around, because we got the sun and the moon. So the sun goes around, and then once it reaches back to that finish line, we look for the moon because the moon tells us when the month is. The sun tells us what the days is, and the collection of days is years. So when the sun goes all the way around, it makes it's however you want to think about it, whether it's the sun going around the earth or the earth going around the sun, however you want to think about it, we're able to track the sun and watch how it moves, and we can see from at one time in the year where it rises at 90 degrees exactly, and it sets at 270 degrees. Right. So it's perfectly east and perfectly west. That's when the equinox is. And so after that, the first new moon that you see is going to be the beginning of the year. And that's always going. And when you do it like that, at the time when you're supposed to get the barley that the people's looking for to be the signifier, if you do it like that, it's going to always be barley there for you to get. So the people look at the thing and say, barley's the thing that I'm supposed to use in order to signify it. But I'm saying it's going to be a witness that the Most High's timing is correct. If you go based on the lights in the sky, you're going to always have the thing that he wants for you to have in that time when he wants you to have it. So the people look and say, well, I know I'm supposed to have barley at this time of year, so that must be the signifier. But the scriptures don't tell us that. The scriptures say look in the sky for these things. And it's easy to do. Like even like tonight. Tonight is what? The 5th or the 6th? I think after Shabbat, we should be able to see. That moon. We should be able to see the moon. Yeah. But it got to be again at Erev. Erev, yeah. So which gets you back to the idea of when the day begins. I was going to say that. Because if I know the month starts by the moon. Right. If I go and see the new moon, where I can only see it at Erev, at nighttime. I can only see it at night. It's the only time I can see it. I'm going to look at it and I see it. Oh, it's right there. That must mean this is the first day. The beginning. But I'm not going to say, well, I see it here, so I know that when the sun comes back up, it's the first day. Right. Because now what do I do but this time? Right. How do I count for this time that goes through all the way through the night? Right. But I can look up there and see at Erev, the sun going down. And as soon as that sun hits the horizon, you'll be able to look up there and see that signifier in the sky, that moon, which you probably be able to see tonight if it's not too cloudy. Right. And that's the beginning of the month, the beginning of the day, right? When you're able to see the light, that's the signifier. Yeah.
So it wasn't when the sun went down yesterday.
Well, for the people who go by the conjunction, I guess it was. Right. But if you go by the conjunction, there's no light that you're looking to.
You know what? When I meditated on this, and I always consult the Ruach, it's funny because it showed me scriptures a lot. And one of the things that stood out to me was when he said the heathen, they wear out the saints of the Most High, and to think to change the times and law, right? I thought about that, and I applied to today. What they did was creating a new day at midnight. When we look at today, a new day began after 12 o'clock. Though they was delinquent in their doing, they still tried to heed to the evening being a new day. But they were delinquent in making it 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's not like, because it's not connected to anything, right? Really. It's not. It's just like some arbitrary point in the middle of the night, and you say, "Oh, that's when it is," based on, because we know that this whole idea of an exact 12-hour day, 24-hour day, right. 12 day and 12 night, it wasn't like that. Right. Nobody's counting the days like that, because sometimes you're gonna have a shorter day and a longer night. Sometimes it's gonna be longer. It's gonna be opposite.
But in doing that, a lot of people take that in consideration. Like, oh, well, the heathen changed that. That's why the day begins with a daylight. No, that's not true.
Yeah, I mean, we can look this,
but I understand they're right.
Yeah.
Because of that,
yeah.
That's just like saying someone stole your bike and I painted and rearranged it to look like mine to conceal it from you. Then try to turn around and sell it to you and say, this is my bike. You need to ride it. That's what they did to the Bible. They stole our bike. They painted it, whitewashed it, did whatever they had to do, then try to teach it back to us in another language, of course. But the truth of the matter is, it belonged to us in the first place.
Yeah.
These rules belonged to us in the first place. And a lot of us run away from them thinking that it was a creation of the heathens, when it really wasn't.
If we consider the moon at all, if we consider the moon at all at being a signifier for anything, we see the moon at night. The moon rules the night. Right. That's what it said. We just read that. If we consider the moon rules the night. I don't know how we consider that, with that other thought process in terms of the day starting with the day, when we have this idea of looking for the moon for our months. When we look at, for instance, let's see, Exodus chapter, I think it's 12. What version is that?
This is the scriptures.
Okay, yeah, that's the scriptures version. What do it say in the KJV?
What's 12 reverse?
1 and 2. Oh, 2. Yeah, 2 and 3.
This month shall be unto you the beginning of months, and it shall be the first month of the year to you. Speak ye unto all the congregation of Israel, saying, in the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for house.
I don't know. Okay, so in the King James it says this month shall be to you the beginning of months. But the scriptures version says what?
This new moon is the beginning of new moons for you. It is the first new moon of the year.
Right, because the word that's translated as month is really moon. Right. So when we begin the month, it's based on the moon. And if we have to observe the moon, we have to see it is light. The conjunction, we can't see anything. We're looking for the light, and then we start when we see it. Not say, well, we saw it now, so whenever the sun come back, then we're going to start from there. We're going to start from right now when we see it. Right? Because
so it wasn't seen when the sun went down.
Yeah.
Friday night?
No, because it's the conjunction. You can't see it.
Okay, so
you can't see the conjunction.
The conjunction moon is when it's completely
all
dark.
Black,
yeah.
Outside and there's nothing there.
Yeah, you can't see it.
That's conjunction.
So you can't look. You can't look for something that you can't see. You can't see it.
Right. Some people say they can see the
no,
outline,
you can't.
I don't see how you can see the
you
outline.
Can't.
But for me, whenever I look at the first crescent when the sun's coming down, that's how you can determine the new year and the new month all at the same time, basically.
Yeah.
Because you see where the sun is, and then you see where the moon is,
mm-hmm.
and then you could do that. But like if it's any other phase of the moon, you're not going to see it at sunset like that.
Right. Yeah.
So our Passover won't start until sundown that Saturday, the 20th. Instead of the 19th.
Well, I'm not sure.
Isn't it the evening of the 19th?
I don't know offhand. I gotta look it up on the thing. Okay, so let's move forward off of that.
14, 15. I'm not sure.
Let's see. Verse 20. Let's see, verse 20 down through 23. Read verse 20 down through 23.
And Elohim said, Let the waters teem with souls of living beings. Let birds fly above the earth of the face of the expanse of the heavens. And Elohim created great sea creatures and every living being that moves, with which the waters teem, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and increase and fill the waters in the sea, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there came to be evening, and there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fifth day.
Okay, so we see the Most High makes all of these little animals and things, right? The winged birds, the things, the living beings that move in the great sea, and the birds. And then he said, did he bless anything yet?
He said, be fruitful.
I don't think he blessed anything yet until just right here, right? That's what I'm saying, until he gets to right here, right? And he blessed them saying, be fruitful and increase and fill the waters in the seas and let the birds increase on the earth.
You know what that goes shows me? Shoot, that's why when I talked about how the birds praise y'all early in the morning, it goes to show you that all the creatures was here before us.
Right.
So they automatically knew. They automatically knew what time it was. They already know how to. And they obedient.
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
It's not. Everything is doing what it's supposed to do, but
Right. And
Everything.
the sun come up,
But
the
us.
moon do what it's everything do what it's supposed to. Birds or everything does what it's supposed to do, but us.
So we can learn a lot from nature. I was telling this one minister that. I said you can learn a lot from nature, man. You know.
Well, I mean, I people done got mad at me for saying this, but at the end of the day, we're animals.
Yeah. Period.
But the
we're the last ones.
But the problem is our problem is the thing that separates us from the animals becomes our problem.
Right.
The thing that actually sets us apart from just the regular, I'm gonna say regular animals, because we animals too. The thing that sets us apart from the regular animals is the thing that's messing us up. Right? And you know, we get off track and we get, you know, we are the way we are because of the systems that are set up that pull us away from being connected to all of these things, right?
Just doing what we're supposed to do. We overthinking everything. Thinking we're going to figure out a way to do it without him.
Mm-hmm. So here, I just thought it was interesting that we see that this blessing goes forth, and of course, it is for these things that created, these things that filled the seas, and these birds that that filled the earth. It says to increase on the earth. I thought that was interesting there. Just moving on quickly here, we see that 24. Let's read 24. Let's just for now read the 24 through 27. 24 through 27.
And Elohim said, let the earth bring forth the living beings according to its kind, livestock, and creeping creatures, and beasts of the earth according to its kind. And it came to be so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, livestock according to its kind, and all that creep on the earth according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heaven, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the ground. And Elohim created them, man in his image. Let me say this again. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim, he created him, male and female, he created them. And Elohim blessed them. And Elohim said to them, be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the creeping creatures of the earth.
Okay, let's just stop right there for
I
now.
have a question.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm confused about 27.
27.
Yes, where it say Elohim created the man in his image, in the image of Elohim he created him, male and female he created them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's them? Because this is prior to Eve doesn't come up until like 18, 19, that's chapter 2. So
Chapter 2.
That's a recap.
Yeah.
Is it?
Chapter 2 is a recap in more detail of chapter 1.
Because remember, at the end of day 6, he rests on day 7. He's done. He's not creating nothing else at that point.
Right.
Yeah,
He's just explaining the creation of Adam and Eve.
right. In detail. Because if you read in the beginning of chapter 2, it tells you this is genealogies.
First was the
Well,
creation of earth. And
Right.
now
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in what y'all talking about.
Oh, here it comes.
I'm gonna throw a monkey wrench in what y'all talking about. When I look at this, and this is my thoughts on the matter. When I look at this second part here of, when I see the second part of 27, I think this is a matter of fact. He yes indeed created male and female. He created them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we talked about created, right? We talked about created before in terms of this idea of with, creating something from nothing. Right? And see how he did it. So I'm saying that it says that the Elohim created the man in his image, and in the image of Elohim, he created him.
Right.
And by the way, male and female, he created them. But I don't know necessarily if female was created right here. And I'll say based on, we're going to go chapter 2 next week. But I'm saying that there's a lot that goes on. And then you will have to assume that all of these things go on all in the day period. Right. In terms of, he takes all the animals to Adam and he names them. He looks and sees at how all of these animals, how they have a mate. Oh, and by the way, I do not.
Yeah, so y'all kind of feel bad.
So you made all of this for them. You made all of this.
Yeah.
But
you first.
Yeah, but that's what he's talking about.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
He's saying in this 27, if when Adam is naming all of the animals and he's looking around, he's like, yo, everybody got a woman.
And he talking to y'all like, what's up, man?
Like, wait a minute, what is this? You made me in your image. Where man help me?
Where man
Everybody
help
else gotta help me. Where's man? So he's saying technically, maybe as far as this is reading, maybe he didn't create Eve. Maybe what we're looking at here is the creation of Adam.
And creation of creatures.
Right.
Male and female.
But he goes back when Adam is like, hey, where's my help? And he's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah. I got something special for you, buddy.
Right.
Yeah, that was after the first week.
So what you just did, you ain't throw a monkey wrench in there. What you did was use a Stanley screwdriver. You tightened some stuff up.
Right.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of the thought process. So I'm saying that woman wasn't created in Genesis 1:27.
Right.
What I'm saying is that the most, just like how we saw in verse 1, where everything wasn't created in verse 1, even though he said the Most High created the heavens and the earth. Where we seen further down, where he got to the place where he pulls the water back and there's the earth. But in verse 1, we know that he created everything.
Right.
But there's no purpose. There's no purpose yet. Where he looks and sees everything that's around and see how he's alone. Even the animals got partners. I don't got no partner. what is this like?
And then
but that's next chapter. But I didn't want to get into next chapter.
I just want to touch on verse 4, second chapter, for her behalf.
Hold on.
It talks about that.
Hold on.
Well, so that's what you can go ahead and read.
Yeah, just look at chapter 2. We're gonna go over it next week, but I'm saying that just to answer your question, I'm saying where it says male and female, he created them is a general statement that's making a fact of the matter that the Most High created. Yeah, he's the creator.
He created a being that could be male and female.
Say that again. What'd you say? I didn't hear what you said.
I said he created a being that could be male.
He took
the possibility
the parts
of that being.
The parts
he
took from the parts that he made a woman out of. He took out of the man.
So basically, he made Adam. He just didn't name him and do the whole formula.
Well, in terms of the woman, I'm not saying this, but I've heard somebody say that he made like this multi-sexed thing and then separated.
That sounds like satanic.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying that he separated it then, but just like he made the heavens and
like
the water and everything, and then he separated, so everything was already there.
Right.
So in this being,
he takes from the one that he made. Yes. Right, because he formed a man from nothing, and then he took the woman from man. Right. So in that regard, you could say he made man and woman, but woman wasn't manifest. I'm saying woman wasn't manifest
in created, but woman wasn't created yet because he didn't take from man.
Yeah.
Well, again, now we're talking about created again. I think woman was formed though. We had to look at that next week, but I think woman was formed. Because the thought process is that he's taking woman out of the man that he done already created. So the parts that he needs from the woman
made already to be able to create woman out of man.
Yes. And all of the things that he need, he's taking out of that because he took the red and built off of that.
You ever think when we get the word woman from, when he took that red by the head, he was like, woo! Woo, man! I'm gonna call her woman.
No, he was asleep. Okay?
I'm never messing with you, man.
If he talking to, well, maybe he did talk in his sleep. We do.
Hey, yeah, we talking in our sleep. What Benaiah said, we was praying over those women, they start growling and stuff. They do stuff when they sleep too.
Okay, so if we go back to verse 26, then this is also a verse that people look at. And when you look in the Hebrew, like you can't get around this pluralization of this situation here. Where it says, "Let us make in our image." You can't get around it. The Hebrew version of the words that's used here literally is us. It's not like a mistranslation or anything. It's literally giving you the thought of us. Now, people say, well, he's making man in the image of angels. But to me, I feel like there's a problem there because whenever Yeshua is talking to the people and he makes a statement and say that in the resurrection, you'll be as the angels. And you won't be given in marriage. There won't be marriage, and you won't be given in marriage.
Right.
So we get to be in a way that the angels are. But if we was created in the image of the heavenly bodies, so to speak, then we already there. Like,
right.
So I'm saying when it's talking about let us, it's not talking about the so-called heavenly bodies in terms of the angels. Is dealing with, just like when we see with Elohim, it don't mean that there's many gods,
right? Because
we have a problem. We have a problem when we look down the line and we see that the Most High says that he's the Elohim of heaven and he's the Elohim of earth and that there's none beside me. So we have to understand this idea of this kind of concept that's the royal we.
Right.
If we talk about if we talk about a king can refer to his own self in that plural stance because it speaks to the magnitude of the power. Right. When you think about Elohim, the mechanical translation translate Elohim as powers. Yeah. Because he is all the powers. He holds all the powers. Right. So we have to think about this in regards to the magnitude of who the Almighty is. And as soon as we look at that and say, well, it says us, so there must be more than one, we going off because he tells us that he's by himself and there's none beside him.
Right, right.
So then how can't have both?
You can't have both. It got to be one or the other.
I want to touch base on that because when I used to ask the I get on the Ruach's nerves all the time. And I ask some questions too. And I'd be like, y'all said us. Who was he talking to? When he said our, who was he talking to? Guess what? He took me to John 17 when Yeshua verbatimly said, I did all the work you sent me to do. I magnified the name of those you sent me. Now glorify me back to yourself as we were before the world was created. That blew my mind. Right. I said, you go ahead, Ruach. I said, I love you.
Okay, so but you know what that does is takes us back to where we started in terms of talking about wisdom being the creator or word being the creator. Me as a man, I have wisdom.
Right.
And the manifest, not that wisdom manifest can be word or deed. But we talking about the creator. Right. His word, it says, became flesh.
His word
came out and became earth.
It was just life coming out of
life. Yeah.
It was all of those things that we just looked at over there, right?
Yeah.
So the water stopped right here. The water
is moving. Right. So when we think about Elohim, we get stuck when we think about he's given this to us like this because we are human. Right. He's given us this thing that's beyond our physical comprehension and asking for us to understand it. But we can only understand it from a physical standpoint.
So that reminds me of like if you talk about something in your field, like you're an electrician, you start talking to someone about electricity and maybe some project you're working on, you can't, like, you're gonna lose them real quick.
Especially if they're a dentist. They don't know nothing about your
bill. And me even talking to the doctor, the surgeon, I'm trying to tell the surgeon what to do to me. I mean, how much, you know what I mean? So what I'm saying is that, like, if he's outside of our comprehension, he's outside of time, he's outside of space, he's outside of 3 dimensions, he's outside of 4 dimensions. So you got the time in there. He's outside of all the dimensions that we know. He created. So now he's trying to tell us what he did. How are we supposed to be able to understand what he did? He got to make it real plain for us. Look, Don't worry about all the details. I just made this big thing, that was formless and void.
That was really some of that.
But how is he supposed to tell us how he did
it? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because we're going to be like, wait a minute.
Yeah. Push Moses back out to like, nah, man, you go talk to him. I can't hear that.
Put a bell over you.
Put a bell over you.
Can I say something real quick?
So we have to. Oh, what are you saying, Chris?
Well, I was gonna say that I think just man has, they don't have that wisdom about, really what one means. Like, really, we all are one. We all come from Adam and Eve, right? Eve came from Adam. We're all one and the same. And that's why Yeshua said that he and the Father are one, right? And then he said, make them one as we are one, So I think we just don't have a understanding of the concept of the oneness. And, and the Father said there's no one beside him, but it says that Yeshua is on the right-hand side of the Father.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Yeshua and him are one. So he's not looking at it like, you know, he's on the right side. He's part. They're one. You know what I mean? So there is no one on the right side that's outside of him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to tell you, somebody on here said, weren't there people already prior to Adam and Eve?
I don't know that. It don't. If they are, don't talk about it. So I don't.
You mean like if he created the Neanderthals before?
I don't. I can only talk about what it says to talk about. I don't know. I don't know.
They're gonna get into saying
I don't know what. I don't know what. I don't know what scriptures that's based on. Okay, I can know if we look at Genesis chapter 1. That we looking at, it don't talk about that.
And before them, there was animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
well, there was he made the animals, he made the birds, he made the fish, he blessed them.
Yeah.
And then he made Adam.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is in the course of 7 days.
we don't even get to saying that as Adam. He said that he made he said he made a man.
Yeah, he said he made man.
Yeah. He created the man.
The man.
In his image. So, I mean, somebody could get into that, but I can't get into it because it don't say nothing about that right here.
Well,
I'm saying in terms of right here, no, it don't talk about nothing before this right here.
Well, that's because they're gonna go into, you know,
those
Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't really deal with those other things. I mean, yeah.
But it's obvious that, you know, in the scriptures it says 1,000 years is a day to y'all, and a day to us is like 1,000 years to y'all, and 1,000 years to us is a day to him. But we know that he created all this in 6 days and rested on the 7th. So who's to say there wasn't no 1,000 year periods? Who's to say? We know what the scripture says with you know, his days is different than our days.
Yeah, but I do think that that's really just hyperbole, though. He's giving you that just to say that we think about time the way we think about it, but he don't think about time like that because he's outside of time.
Right.
Like he's the one who made time. He's on the outside of it, looking in, right? So I mean, that's how the Most High, that's how Yeshua can be slain from the foundation of the earth. Because if I'm on the outside of time, if I'm on the outside, I make time. I'm on the outside of it. I can reach in at any point. And you know, this, if I reach in back here, I'm reaching in back here in BC time, or if I'm reaching in over here, and you know what I mean? If you outside of time and space, you're not bound by it. We're bound by it because we're inside of it. But the Most High is not bound by time and space, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying that just to say it in terms of a day to us is 1,000 years to him is like, or the reverse of that. He's not on our time clock. These things was created for us. This time clock that he put in the sun and the moons and the stars wasn't for his purpose. It was for ours.
That's interesting too. That because even who's that? Is that Peter who says that he was slain from the foundation of the earth? Then it says, but he appeared at this time for the sake of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like it already happened.
It happened from his perspective. It already happened, but from our perspective, even theirs, from his perspective, he saw it happen, right? But from our perspective, it happened already. But from his perspective, outside of time and space, again, he could just look like we sitting there editing the video or something. Go back here to BCO, put it right there, then move back over here to. You know what I mean?
Cut out that part.
Yeah.
Cut out that part of the video.
So we can only think about these things the way we look at it, right? But he's outside of this. But this is for us. This is for our benefit, right? All of these things. And we see over here, like where he says, verse 28. Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said, "Be fruitful, just like he blessed the birds and the fishes. Be fruitful and increase, and fill the earth." That's the same thing he said to them, but then he added more for the humans, right? Subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creeping things on the earth, right? So he gives man the preeminence over these, I'm saying mankind, over these things that he already blessed and created, the fish and the birds and all of the creeping creatures of the earth. Right. Right.
Isn't that even like putting a division or a distinction there too? Right?
Yeah, but right.
Managers.
Right. And again, we only talking about purpose. Right? The whole thing that we seeing is him sitting up here purposing things. Right? Because again, he has this ball that he started out with, and he's just purposing it. He's moving things over here, putting this over here, forming this in this way. He's taking this and moving it to be that. When we think about this idea, and then now he's purposing man to sit up here and take care of all of these things, right? To subdue them and to rule over them, right?
It also puts me in the mind of how when you read the scriptures, your first and second born, and a lot of times that second born always was put above the firstborn. Mm-hmm. So you have like the animals and stuff that was created first, but then you have man created after them, but he put man over. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Because the thing that came after was it.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as
that's profound, right there.
Just like you said, kind of exactly what you said, that he created all this stuff for man, but the reason he created all this stuff was for the last creation.
Yeah, the last thing that was made. Yeah,
like, I mean that's exactly what you said, but
yeah.
Yeah. What was the profound thought? I missed that.
Oh, you missed it. It was pretty profound. It was heavy. That thing was heavy. So when we think about the fact that the Most High kind of elevates the firstborn, but we have all of these examples of this second, the thing that was made second being the thing that's ruling, or the thing that is the most favored. And then the same thing is true in terms of us really being animals, but all of the other animals was created first, and then he made us second, but he made us to be the ones that rule over them.
Mm-hmm. But we can learn from them though.
Yeah, I mean now, because we so disconnected, right?
Yeah.
They're not.
Right, and they just been on the same thing. They've been waiting for something that we got to just find out that we need to be waiting for it.
Yeah. But one thing I did notice is about that daggone serpent, man. It's obvious that serpent had legs and arms at one time.
Yeah, but you moving forward though. We didn't get to that part.
I'm advancing.
Yeah, you went too far.
All right, well, I don't want to take a minute yet.
All right, so let's see. Okay, so all of that was, and then we look and see where verse 30, every beast of the earth and every bird of the heavens and every creeping creature on the earth in which there is a living being, every green plant is for food, and they came to be so. So it seemed like everything was vegetarian. Don't it?
Yeah, at this point. Yeah.
Beasts and birds of the heaven.
Every bird.
Is that what it says? That's what it seemed like.
Even I think even though we're not talking about them yet, but even they were not eating. They were eating like fruits.
Yeah, everything. Every beast of the earth.
And so sin. Remember, he said you won't have to.
Yeah, but I think we asked for meat. It's like we asked for a king.
Well, he said don't get into that. I know.
Yeah, but I mean, at this point with Adam and Eve, there was no point for a king because it was just him.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
And they didn't ask for it. They got in trouble. He said, now you want man, the curse was the curse, now you want to work for your food or something like that.
So that's the verse to marijuana smokers.
Oh, no,
Oh yeah, they be on this one
Just
here.
hit me, man.
Oh,
Every green plant.
is food.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to eat, not smoke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at this point in the garden, everything was given to them.
You know,
All they
my
had to
daughter
do was
said,
grab it.
my daughter said before when we read this work, she said, so basically before Eve had him bite the fruit, she said they basically all they had to do was live their best life.
Right.
That's exactly how she summed it up.
That's what you were created for.
She said they were just one of them. She said we just live our best life.
Right.
Like that's
Yeah, you're just going around and just that's beautiful. Let me get some of that. You can have all of the trees and let's just go over here because we going too far. Okay, so let's just look at this. We got more chapters. So let's just look at these last 3 verses here and be done, right? Let's say heaven and earth was completed and all their array. In the 7th day, Elohim completed his work which he had done and rested on the 7th day from all his works which he had made. Elohim blessed the 7th day and set it apart because on it he rested from all his works which Elohim in creating had made. So we see the Shabbat, the 7th day, here being the 3rd thing that was blessed, but it was the first thing that was sanctified. The Shabbat, the 7th day, was the first thing that was called Kadash. To make, pronounce, or observe as clean, consecrated, dedicated, hallowed. Right? So the Shabbat goes all the way back to creation. And again, when we look at this, creation wasn't for Elohim, maybe for his pleasure, but the things within it was for the one who came at the culmination of it all with man. So we can't look at this and say, well, it wasn't like the Most High was tired. It wasn't like he was tired and had to rest from his labors. Right? It wasn't for him, it was for us, right? Because all he was doing was just sitting back, just speaking these things into existence, right? Elohim said this and Elohim said that, right? And then it was so. This rest, although it was created, it was created for us, right? It was an example for us where the Most High did all of his creating. He created all the things that he created, all of the repurposing that he did, all of the taking something and making it into nothing that he did. He did during those 6 days, right? And the same thing, as a picture for us, should be for us. We do all the work that we do, all the creating that we do. We have those 6 days to do it in. But the 7th day is that day that was the first thing that was declared to be set aside holy, right? Kadash. The first hallowed thing is the 7th day, right? Mm-hmm. So, we was talking about in the other day about the laws, for people who didn't have a law. And we see here this thing, the 7th day being that, from creation, which it eventually ends up being a sign of his people, right? But the thing actually came before there was a set apart people, right? So this idea was indeed in existence from creation, and then he took that idea that was from the very beginning and then appointed it unto a specific people.
I have a question to ask you.
Go ahead.
I was just told that there's a little bit of confusion on the evening and morning because it stated that the moon tells us the years, months, and the sun tells us the days. Which this person's mind contradicts what we're saying. Can you explain that?
Hold on, what's the question?
The moon tells us the years and the months, and the sun tells us the day.
Well, where are they getting that from?
I don't know right now.
I mean, I can't really answer something that's not based on anything. We lit and look in Exodus where we saw that a month,
Right.
the word for month is moon,
Right.
Literally.
Right.
And
I told you.
And a year is a collection of days.
Right.
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 And
no. Oh, she must. Oh, they thought you said that.
No.
They thought you said that the moon tells us the month and the years, and the sun tells us the days.
Well, the sun tells us the days, but the sun also tells us the years. But the moon, in conjunction with the sun, tells us the years because we're counting months. So it's a combination of the both, really.
That's why I went into
it's the sun and the moon. It's not one or the other. Because we're looking at, as the sun goes down, we're looking for the moon.
Right.
So it's not like one is excluded from it. They're both involved in it.
They both involved in creation of a one day. That's why I said that a lot of people are confused when they hear the word day, because they automatically associate day with light.
Yeah.
But in that instance, that particular word day consists of both a whole rotation.
Yeah, a whole calendar.
Yeah, whole calendar day.
Yeah.
Which means that the month, shows us the moon shows us the new months and the days count, whatever.
Yeah.
And the sun, that's the key.
If we're going to look at the moon and recognize a moon as the first month, then in that regard, it's telling us when the new year is. But it's in conjunction with the sun.
Yeah. So
they go hand in hand. All of the lights in the sky. There's ways to look at the stars to even know the stars actually even work as a witness to the sun and the moon.
Right.
Which my knowledge of the luminaries stops at the moon. I can't talk about the stars like that. But
people.
But yeah, I do know people who do. But what I'm saying is that when we see with the stars, they bear witness, just like it says. People are able to look and know what constellations that we're in to verify what we've already seen with the sun and the moon.
Like Josephus said that Passover was in Aries.
Right, which is looking at the configuration of the stars.
How we don't know how the constellations changed from that time until now.
Yeah, I think it did move.
Cycles. Don't one of them cycles through.
Yeah, they do. Okay, so saying all that, just to say that where we ending off here is that at the Shabbat, in terms of the Most High finishing is creating, resting, on the seventh day, giving us the example, for the Shabbat, the first Shabbat in the creation week. Okay, so does anybody have any thoughts or comments before we be done with this here?
I think that the one thought that I have is, this is what whenever I talk to people about the Sabbath, that it was sometimes people, they really elevate different things, but they don't really think about the fact that the Sabbath was made for man to dwell with Yah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, he did all this work to get to the place where he could just be with us.
Yeah. It's interesting when we look, when you look at the command, it says that you're not supposed to do any work. that word for work is similar to the word for king. The word for work is similar to the word that represents king. Our work a lot of times is rules over us. It's our master, right? It's the thing that's ruling us, that's leading us, that's guiding us. Is our work. But on the Shabbat, we're not supposed to have nothing ruling over top of us except for the Almighty, except the Creator and Sustainer of all things, right? So it's kind of like you're moving your everyday master aside and recognizing the true master, just for that one day, and we have a hard time just doing that, right? He wants for you to actually allow him to be your master at all times, but he's saying
At least on this
just
day.
bare minimum. Just bare minimum. Let me be your master right now. Right. And we can't. What's the percentage? I guess it's a seventh, right?
That's because I think it's because of how people look at it. When you look at it from a negative perspective,
14%.
It'll make it like it's hard, but it's not hard if you're looking at it from a perspective like you got all these days to do whatever you got to do, even if you're not working. Like you got out of a week, you got 6 days. That's way more than half. But people don't look at it like that. Yeah. I used to look at it way more than half. Like you got 6 days of 7 days. That's way like
because we're selfish creatures.
Yeah,
we want it all.
But like I said, it's the thought process. When you change the thought process, it's not a burden. It is like, wow, I got 6 days to do everything. This is the only day, and it's to be kept holy.
Right,
one day
of your relationship with the Almighty. It's not so. It's like one, and that's what when I'm talking to people. Sometimes I'm like, okay, you got to have the right perspective of it. Because it's like it's like your time to be with him. It's
they make it like a punishment.
It's like one-on-one time.
Right. But it also has a lot to do with who's ruling us.
Yes,
we fell out of grace. The enemy is using that against us to pull us from him.
Right.
But if it was the other way around,
it would be the way I'm saying.
It would be the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And that's where he's going to take it to. When we get through these last few prophecies, it's going to go back that way.
But you got to put it into perspective, which is your everyday life. Like the fact that what he does for you throughout those 6 days, the least you should be able to do is on that 7th day is just give him that, to give him praise. Because he didn't have to wake you up day 3.
Nope.
You know what I mean? You done seen people not making it day 2. You know what I mean? People was in car crashes day 1, and you ain't go through none of that. So the least you should be able to do, like he's saying, is I'm allowing you to do technically 1 through 6. You can't give me at least 7.
1 through 6.
Yeah, like.
But that's when you think of it that way, because that's why I said it's all in how, for those who, it's all in how you're thinking about it. If you're thinking it on a negative mind, like it is going to be like some hard. If you're thinking it from that aspect, it's going to be something that you want to do because you feel like, yeah, I understand. I'm like, yeah, this is the 7th. This is.
I was day 5. I was like, I cannot wait till it's Shabbat. This is
no.
I'm drained here. These people getting on my nerves.
Yeah.
Please, Father, speak this up for me.
And they're going, through these last prophecies, they're going to push the blue laws.
But you're right what you just said. That as far as the enemy, because when you've been living this way for so long,
right?
And so that was a good metaphor.
Okay.
Yeah. So part of us, when we think about our return to the Almighty and getting back into His will and His ways, is allowing for His standards to be our standards, and it potentially causes problems in our everyday life, but you get through those things, right? When you make certain decisions and make certain boundaries and stand your ground and with certain things, it could be so. you know, throughout the years, I remember when it was a time when I was kind of less connected to the Almighty and doing more. You know, I was. Can you turn that down? Just turn that off, actually. When you know are kind of straddling the fence or just kind of in the beginning of things, it's kind of, it's a thing. But once you get all the way in the door and you make that decision that you're going to do, you know, what he wants for you to do is not even an option anymore. People sit up there and say, well, you know, you can have this job, but we work on, well, you know, I don't work on that.
How many you got lapsed off of the book.
I mean, it did.
You went for a job for a year.
Yeah, when you get these jobs, when you say, well, we doing 6'10s or 6'12s or whatever, I don't do that. So I gotta do something else, right? Because, you know, that's his time, right? And I'm saying bare minimum, that's what he's requiring of you. But if you only, I was gonna say, if the only time you spending with the Almighty is on Shabbat, you got problems there, right?
You know what that's equivalent to? Only going to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
Easter. Matter of fact, only on Easter.
Or that's what they do. But if I'm married and I don't even talk to my wife except for one day a week,
right?
I ain't even talking to her.
Yeah, roommates.
You see your roommate more than one time a week or something. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm saying bare minimum, but it was like it's a bad thought process. But I'm saying he's saying, I need this day, no matter what.
I don't care what happens.
But we gotta deal with each other throughout the week. But this I need the Shabbat. Go ahead.
So day in biblical terms is or isn't 12 hours, but 24 hours, like the heathen say.
It's yeah. So we'll finish this right now like this, right? A day, what we have to be able to do is not look at a day and just a whole day and deal with a whole day. Here, let me just do this is bonus right here.
Scripture.
This is bonus material, right? I mean, we can't look at the word yom. I explained this, I thought, perfectly. We can't look at the word yom and think that it only means the hot part of the day. So bonus. Exodus chapter 12, and then we'll be done with this.
Thank you.
If you can't get it after this, then that's you just being an Israelite.
or camp follower.
Okay. Exodus 12 verse 15. Read 15 and 16.
7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And in the first day there shall be an holy convocation, and in the 7th day there shall be an holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done of you.
Okay, so we're gonna say this. Every time you see day right there, that's yom. So is that saying that during the day part, I'ma eat unleavened bread. But at night, at night I'm gonna have hametz. And then daytime again, I'm gonna eat unleavened bread. And then nighttime, I'm gonna eat. That's 7 whole days. It don't have nothing to do. Well, if you Ramadan in it, right? But we Israelites, right? So if a day, a complete day it's not a heathen concept to think that a day is quote unquote 12 hours. A whole day constitutes the day part, the hot part, and the dark part. A whole 7 days, right? When it talks about getting the leaven out of your house, it stays out the whole 7-day period. It's not half of a day, it's a whole day, right? Okay, so just chew on that one. I don't know who the person was, but there's your answer. Okay, so that being said, we are going to go ahead and be done with this for now. We'll come back, y'all willing, next week. Look at chapter 2. And we'll keep on going with our Torah readings. Okay, so that being said, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.